What's up, Yins guys? Welcome back to Fishing PA with Ryan Reed. Guys, in this video, we're going to continue on with our video casting, and we've got another special guest for you guys this week. Now, guys, I reached out to this individual a few weeks ago, and I've been really looking forward to this particular conversation and video cast. So in this particular episode, we're going to talk the legend lures, and we're going to have Mr. Brian Boyer on, along with Evan Schoss and Nick Fiesler. Now, again, guys, Brian Boyer is a local legend here in the state of Pennsylvania when it comes to musky fishing. Legend Lures is well known all over the country and really all over North America. Guys, Legend Lures is a staple when it comes to musky fishing. And you guys are going to find Legend Lures in virtually every musky fisherman's boat across the musky range. A lot of top musky guides rely on these tools to catch not only muskies in general, but very, very big muskies. You know, guys, I really do enjoy doing this. I love having guests on like Brian Boyer to talk about his products, to talk about musky fishing. But I also really enjoy having guys on like Evan Schoss and Nick Fiesler. You know, local fishermen that can give you guys the perspective of a local fisherman here in the state of Pennsylvania, also using these products throughout the entire fishing season. So again, I was super pumped about this. I was even more excited because Brian was just on Fat AZ Musky podcast as well. And I can tell you guys, listening to that this morning while I was working from home, I was just super pumped about this. You know, the chance to kind of highlight Legend Lures and again, this local, humble person in Brian Boyer, you know, it was just super awesome and super exciting for me, you know, to bring him onto my YouTube channel and talk fishing. Guys, that's the plan for this episode. We're going to jump in, talk Legend Lures with the legend himself, and hopefully you guys enjoy this one as much as we did.
What is up, Yins guys? All right, tonight, again, we have a few special guests on. We've got Mr. Evan Schoss, we've got Mr. Nick Fiesler, and we've got Mr. Brian Boyer. And tonight, the topic for discussion is going to be Legend Lures. So, guys, thank you guys very much for jumping on tonight. Looking forward to talking Legend Lures. So,
hey, good to be here.
Yeah,
I don't know that Nick feels the same way. I keep dragging him into the same with Evan.
You get to talk to the legend himself, Mr. Boyer.
Yeah, it's been a while.
All right, so basically we have some questions. So Brian, we're going to spend some time basically drilling you with questions. You know, I want to hear the story of Legend Lures. So if you guys are good, I'm going to get right into these and see how we do. Sound good?
Ready.
All right, so the question I've been asking everybody, and this is kind of a twofold question. So the first part of it is, when did you start musky fishing? So I'll start, Brian, I'll start with you on this one.
Okay, I got started into musky fishing, I would say around 1988. And I run into, the story of getting into it was I knew a guy that fished for muskies down at Keystone Lake, which is fairly close to where I live, and I was walleye fishing for a couple years down there, and I would run into him, and he would show me pictures of muskies. He had quite a few, like a handful of pictures of pretty nice muskies, and he says, "Yeah, you got to give this a try. You got to go out there and try it," And I said, "Well." Yeah, one of these years. So then after about 2 years, I guess, like I said, in around 1988, I decided to give it a try. And it's always nice to have someone to take you out. And he was nice enough to jump in the boat with me. And we took basically a boat ride around the lake, threw some big lures out and gave me some pointers and kind of got me started in the right direction. And that was about it. After that, I went out. I think the first time I went out and actually left the walleye equipment at home, I was with a buddy and we actually got a nice muskie on. So that kind of kind of starts the addiction there.
That's the reoccurring theme is the word addiction. Just feel like that's the case for everybody. It's like you catch one fish and you're just hooked forever. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that?
First one I thought
I
was a
think,
snag.
yeah,
Then it jumped and it's all over.
one of those things you never forget that first muskie. I feel, you know, you kind of just, it sticks with you. You always remember everything about it, and down to, like, you know, what you were wearing, what lure you were using, and how fast you were going, and you know that's cool things about it.
Yeah, I mean, so that's how you got started. What I mean, what ultimately led you into wanting to build musky lures? You know, you're out there fishing, and is this something that you just thought of, you know, while you're out in the boat, or how did this come about, Legend Lures?
Well, I had, once I got started there, I put a couple of pretty nice fish in the boat. I think I had gotten like a 49 incher, then I was out the one night and I had got one around like 52. And those are like my first couple of fish. And I was like, the guy that got me into it was kind of high on 10-inch believers, and that's kind of what I used there at first. That maybe some grandma, some of the regular standbys. There wasn't a lot back then to choose from, and there was even less in the stores. But kind of got the wheels turning. I like the size, the 10-inch. A lot of guys, you start getting up to that size, they get a little bit spooked. So I guess the wheels started turning that winter, which you got a lot of time to think over winter. You know, you're sitting around, not much is going on, and I thought to myself, what? Wonder if I could make myself. I definitely can't find anything bigger. I wasn't aware of anything bigger. I couldn't find it in the stores. It was tough finding. I think where I found about the only place I could find any musky lures was Lock 3, Lee Murray. I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but so I said I want to for sure try and make a bigger, or get something bigger to try, because I was curious to see how big of a bait they would hit. So I decided my partner starting out was into taxidermy. We were partners for a couple years, and then he dropped off, but kind of got started there and was able to make a 14-inch lure, thanks to his help as well, because he had some background in taxidermy with molding and stuff like that. So we was able to come up with one, and it worked well. A 14-inch, you know, a lot of guys looked at it and laughed, but it definitely worked great.
Is that the diver, the Legend diver?
Right. It was the old style. A lot of guys like to call it the bug eye.
I brought one along.
There it is. Yep, definitely.
Wow, Gabe, put that up a little closer to the camera. I think I seen maybe somebody brought one of those to the swap maybe last year just to show off. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. That's unbelievable. So that was like the original bait that you made was a 14-inch bug eye.
Yeah, and you can tell. Well, I guess you can see it's got a cross. I kind of tried to make a cross between a believer and a grandma, and I kind of like I don't know. It's maybe a little comical, but I kind of like the big eyeballs on it. I figured that's got to give them a little bit of a target to zone in on those. But yeah, that was it. I mean, had the two settings on it. I just it did it. It worked well. We caught quite a few big fish. The only problem was that I don't think a lot of guys liked it or had confidence in it. It just didn't look like something practical to be fishing with me. I don't know. But after a few years of, it kind of, you know, I was making sales going to shows and stuff, but it kind of tapered off, and I needed to, go a different direction then.
Okay. All right. I mean, so Evan, I got a question for you. I mean, I've been thinking about all these baits, and I don't know. I mean, so what year, Brian, did you come out with that again? Was that?
I started. It was like the winter of '89 into 1990 was about the first year I started the business and started getting going.
Okay, I was just curious because I mean I look at that as a relatively green musky fisherman now. I'm looking at some of these baits like that, and I just feel like, Evan, we talked about like musky nostalgia and history. That is a bait that I would I would love to get one and just hang it in my in my office as part of history. I mean that's the bait that started it all for Legend Lures, and Brian, that's a pretty awesome thing right there,
Oh,
That bait, time. That was definitely one of those baits. I don't think people were ready for it back then, Brian. I think it was like you said, and especially from Pennsylvania, where that. I think you sold it to me more whenever you said a cross between a believer and a grandma, because I think when you look at it, like you said, and you see the big bug eyes on it, and you don't think of those other lure styles, but when you said that and you look at it, and it's like a minnow bait body, but with the believer head and tail, and when it runs exactly like what you say too, and it's I think it's just people weren't ready for it whenever you came out with it, and it's a pretty cool bait.
They look amazing in the water.
Yeah, the shallow set is. I just love the shallow set. If you've ever run it on the shallow set, it's great.
Yeah, that's what my girlfriend was giving me a hard time. I found those. Someone was selling them on Facebook or something, and I think I might have been we kind of worked it in to pick it up. I picked those up the same night I picked up a new puppy, and I might have been more excited about the lures than the puppy.
Oh, that's so
Brian,
cool.
how many styles did you make in that kind of that shape, that body style? Did you make 4 or 5 different sizes of that?
Yeah, we did. And really, the reason behind why I got into so many different styles is first of all, it was just made for personal use, and then we just we decided to maybe take a stab at going to some of the shows and see how it went over, and so we ended up to go to the shows. You need some different sizes, so you need some smaller baits just to carry you through the show, to make some sales, to make it just to make it cost efficient to be there at the show. So we got into, I believe there was the 5.5 inch one. It was the smallest version. We had the 11 inch, the 9 inch, and had the one that was a husky. It was a 6 inch husky, and those were the basic sizes of that, downscaled. And also the one upscale is the XL 23 incher for guys that want to go big time.
Wait. Well, I don't know that I've seen one of those yet.
I still haven't seen one in real life. Lots of pictures, but never in the wild.
What?
No, that bait's pretty unique, Brian. And you had I remember you giving a presentation back at the Marine Muskie Association. One of the things you mentioned with the XL was your hook placement, and you found out that with the big eyes on that bait, that moving the hook to where was it, on the bill? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it's I think if you mess around with the big lure, the places I fished at, anyways, I can't make a statement for everywhere, but through my experiences, even that 14 inch lure, even the 14 inch Legend, they were basically nailing that thing right on the bill or the eye. right in around that big eye. So I actually, the XL was made with 4 hook hangers, and what I would do was took and actually put a hook. I have a hanger. There's actually a hook hanger right underneath the bill. So I took and put 2 tandem hooks in the underneath the bill from there to the first hook hanger. I think I had 1 hook on there. That's 3 hooks. Nothing else was on the rest of the body. But I'll tell you, I got I had hits on that lure. I had one muskie to the boat. I lost it. It was a big one. That's another story. I could tell you that here later. But yeah, all the hooks were concentrated on the front. That's where they would hit them at. Even that 14-incher, almost all of them. I actually would take a hook off of the rear of that bait and move it up and around the front just to try and have a little bit better hooking percentage. So yeah, it's crazy, but if you understand, I've even seen footage of muskies. They'll come up and hit the bait, and I think what they say is they'll hit it to stun it, and then they'll come back around to grab it by the head to swallow it. But that's kind of what I've heard and seen.
That's really interesting, and it's neat to hear that from somebody who, you know, has experience on the water, but also has, you know, run the baits and designed the baits for that purpose, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely want to hear that story later. I want to hear about that big one. So, I mean, I have so many questions about like the lure lineup or your bait line. I mean, you've made so many different styles of bait. So, you know, I guess my question is, are you still making that line, or have you moved into, you know, other lures like you know, like the perch baits and where are you at right now? Like what baits are you focused on?
I do make those whenever someone requests it. It's a little bit like pulling teeth because I'm so busy with the other lures that I've got to drag out the old molds and try, and get and do a few of them. But as of right now, yeah, my bread and butter is the perch bait, the plow, the outcast, perch bait jointed. That's basically what I got focused on. And how I guess I could tell. I guess this story would fit in here at this time is how I got started with the perch bait. And that was I made that in around like 1995, and that's the other business was slowing down. I had a partner for 2 years. He dropped out because it had slowed down pretty good, and I pushed onward. I wanted to. I'm a diehard, and I just wanted to give it all I could, and so I thought, whenever I was doing the shows, I heard a lot of guys talking, and I just felt there wasn't confidence in the first lures I'd made, the old style ones, and you kind of got, I guess, if you're in business, you kind of got to listen to the customer, what the customer tells you, and it seems like they wanted something that looked like a fish. So I had my one buddy was going to a pay lake, and I asked him, I said, do they have big perch there? I said, is it possible to catch one? If you get a nice one, bring it up and bring it to me. I appreciate it. And so he was there, and he ended up catching a pretty nice perch, and he brought it back to me. I took and outlined it, and that's where the perch bait started. I molded the body there and went from there. But that's what I'm basically doing now is the plows, the perch baits, perch bait jointed, and the outcast, and a couple of the smaller versions. But it has kept me very busy ever since probably like it started really catching on, like probably I would say like 1998, 99, and the rest is history.
That's very cool stuff. I have a question though too. And I don't know if I'm just gonna bring it up, and if we don't want to go down this rabbit hole, I'll edit it out later. But the question I have is I wanted to talk about or ask you about the little squirts. And what are these called? The sortie? Is that what that's called?
Yeah, it's funny how you come up with different names for stuff at the time. Yep.
So I'll tell you, like these are the first legend lures that I ever bought, and it was probably might have been my first Musky Max. Honestly, I was there. I remember buying grandma's, and I was ready to go musky fishing. But I remember being, and I know at that point you had a booth, but there was, I don't know if it was somebody from Muskies Inc. that was there that had a batch of these. And I can remember standing at the table, and my buddy Dan was like, "You want those? You need those. Pick those up." And I can remember looking at it, like I picked it up, and I'm like, "Man, that is really interesting." You know, looking with the little bulgy eyes, and
Right.
took that, got that bait, got those two baits. We went up to High Point Lake, and we were going to do some pike fishing. It ended up being more pickerel fishing these days. But I remember like the first, I think it was like the first, one of the first 5 casts, I got a fish on the little squirt. And I was like, this is my new favorite lure. We took it to Canada. I think I caught like maybe 5, it was like 5 pike and like 7 casts. And I took it off because I didn't want the pike to ruin the paint on it. My buddy Dan has one exactly like this, and there is no paint left on it at all. So I've been not fishing these because I didn't want to ruin them. But I wanted to ask you, like what is this just like a product of bait making? Like, Evan, we talked about this recently. Like when you make baits, you just start making all sorts of baits and trying to fill different, I guess, needs, as far as the tool goes. But like what prompted you to make something, this small versus a 23-inch, lure? Like, I'm just curious, like, what was that? Is it just a product of the environment, or?
Yeah, like I stated there before, that small lure was made to basically take to the show and sell. We would they do work, and we tested them, and and did some quite extensive testing with them. But basically, what that little guy is just a filler for going to the show and trying to cover your costs. And that's basically, that's, we never did much any advertising about, and I always looked at the shows as being advertisements. So, but that's basically what that is, how you can come up and then as far as the 23-incher, I really did want that bait to make it, because I wanted to see how big I could, pull around something, and it's unbelievable. You get in the right waters, and you get in the bite is on. It's amazing what they'll do, what they'll hit, if you get in the right place in the right time with a big lure like that. It's just crazy, and that's what I made that. That's the one extreme, to the other, but that's the way that went.
That's really interesting to me. I mean, it's just, oh man, I want them all. I don't know, I guess I have a problem now when it comes to lures in general. I just want every single model of everyone, especially made in PA. Because I don't know, I just feel like, growing up here and not realizing, like, and again, this is something we just talked about, like not realizing how many just awesome bait makers we've had in Pennsylvania, and I mean, Brian, like your baits are being sold all over and used all over the country, by like lots and lots of guys on lots of different water. It's just crazy that we live in this area and there's just been so many.
Yep, there's a lot of bait makers from Elwood City. I don't know if you've ever heard of like Jimmy's Lures. They was around, and actually he made a pretty good bait. I knew a lot of guys that caught fish, but that's just how it goes. You have some that come up, and I guess either he wasn't making enough money at it or didn't want to do it anymore or whatever. But yeah, there was a lot of good bait makers that come right from that area in Elliott City or Elwood City.
I think the coolest thing with Legends is I spent quite a bit of time up on Georgian Bay. It's actually where my girlfriend's from, and everyone you meet up there that fishes, that's their, all you need is a perch bait. That's that'll get it done. And what everybody says is one of the most challenging spots in the fish, but
that's always music to the ears whenever I hear that. Actually, the first time I ever made it up to Georgian Bay, I think it was back in the early '90s, and I walk into the tackle shop, and there's one of my 14 inchers hanging up on the wall. I didn't even sell it to him. It was a strawberry. Somewhere he had got it and threw it up there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
They beat you there.
So I have a question for Nick and for Evan, because, like I said, this is the first year I'm going to run the perch bait, a lot. I mean, I've never really owned a perch bait until this year. I think Brian, I talked to you, I think it was a couple months ago, and I think I picked one up on TRO, and I've just always heard so much about these baits, and I don't know, for whatever reason, we just never hooked up, and I never was able to get any of them. So I'm super excited. But Nick and Evan, like, how long have you guys been running, Legend lures? Like, Evan, you want to go first? Is that an okay question to ask?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I met Brian years ago, probably like you said, back at one of the Musky Max shows or something like that, and probably around the time that I started musky fishing. So probably maybe 2006, 2007, had picked up, one of Howard's functions or something like that, picked up a perch bait, a Fire Tiger perch bait, and was, running it up at Pine Tuning, and, caught a fish that was, I don't know, maybe 35 inches or something like that. But, like you said, knew there that it filled the void for exactly what we were going to need to do in the future. And, can remember a time up at Chautauqua, we caught a fish that was absolutely, just super fat. Thought for sure it was like 48 plus, and got it in the boat and measured it, and it was like 45 inches. We're like, what the heck? But it was, just another perch bait beauty. So yeah, we've run them in every color, pretty much every style. The Outcast, the perch baits, the plows, and some special stuff that you make. So, it's always been a staple, and I think they should be in everybody's boat. So,
thank you.
That was well said. Nick, how about you?
More recent convert. I didn't really know what I was doing for musky fishing until just probably 4 years ago. And then I was fortunate enough to link up with Andy from Fat AZ, and he gave me an assortment of musky baits after I told him I was just catching fish on Rapalas. And he said, these are what you need to run. He gave me a baby perch bait, and that was just like the coolest looking bait I'd ever seen. And then I picked up here and there all over the place. And then this summer we really used them a lot, getting fishing down towards like the thermocline on some of the local lakes, and really being able to get the depth that you needed to target some more dynamic fish. I was pretty pleased we got one on a plow this year. That was my first plow fish. It's a monster 36 incher.
That's amazing to me. I mean, that will never cease to amaze me.
Yeah, eager. And then we caught a couple anchor ropes after that. It was just to get the excitement up.
Those are all right as long as there's a bunch of lures hooked to it. I've actually got a couple of perch baits back on, not to mention some other lures whenever I pulled up a few anchors before.
We got one lure and then 2 anchors, and we caught one rod too. Rod with a a tough shad. Just went through the split ring on a tough shad. The hooks had rotted off.
I
Picked up
I
the
was
whole rod.
I was up at Buffalo Harbor fishing. This is quite a few years ago, but I snagged into something. I thought it was a fish because usually whenever you get those ropes like that, it just starts to creak, and then all of a sudden going faster, and you said, "Oh boy!" And then all of a sudden, then you know it's a snag. But I went back and put my lure knocker down and was able to break the anchor free. And I think I brought up there was like a hooker bait, a high fin. I think it was like two perch baits and a grandma or something like that. It was like Christmas, and they were all pretty good shape too because the guys, it was in musky trolling season and they had evidently just snagged. Somebody had probably just dropped that anchor and everybody had been snagging on it.
Probably you brought home the one that got away for all those other guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Evan, you ever had that happen to you? Anchors?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think it's probably about the same place where Nick was too. So the notorious anchor graveyard there, where people must throw an anchor rope that's always 3 foot shorter than whatever the depth of the lake is, and notorious. Just come up there and every year somebody catches one, and yeah, I got a combo, 2 anchors on 1 rope, and 40 pounds of fish fighting fun, right? It makes you think you got one, but you end up tying it off to the boat, taking a break, and all that fun stuff. Yeah,
sometimes you get the smaller collapsible ones that feel like they're fighting.
Yep, dragging on the bottom or something. Yeah.
I'm the guy that's yelling fish for every snag. I'm like, fish. No. maybe it might be. No. Oh, I mean, so my next question, we talked about the baits. One of the big things I think for guys in particular is color. And I don't know, I'm still kind of feeling my way through color and different scenarios. But my question is, and this is going to be for everybody because I am curious. I've got to make my Ryan Reed notes for my notebook and get all the information I can so I can catch some fish this year. But what, as far as color goes, what are your favorite colors? Color patterns. Maybe like as far as painting, like how do you come up with these patterns? I mean, it seems like some of the colors are pretty standard, and then I'll see one on your Facebook page and I'm like, whoa, how did he come up with that? So I guess it's kind of a twofold question. Like, how do you come up with paint patterns, and then what are your favorite colors?
The paint patterns, a good bit of them were standard colors out there available at the time. So, you take like black perch. I don't know who came up with that. I know that was on grandma's. I'm not sure where it originated at, but there, and then there were, I guess I came up with my own variation of a perch color. Walleye was just something a little bit different. I guess it doesn't even, if you think about it, it's not even really that close to a real walleye, but that's just a color that just what it was called. But yeah, it's just different colors that I came up with. I know whenever some of the guys, like some of the catalogs, or like at the time, probably when I started selling those, Raleigh and Helens was carrying some of them, and they would ask for some different colors, like something in this, something in that. So that's how I came up with them. And then there's other ones, some of them was just personal colors that I wanted to have, so I made a pattern up in that. But and I think you was asking what some of my favorite colors was. Can never overlook the perch. Perch you can take just about anywhere, and I think I've seen it said that it's like number 2 color, if not number one in Muskies Inc. all-time catches or whatever. I was thinking black was first, but I'm not sure. But so the perch, and I've done pretty good over the years with the walleye color, and sucker pattern's been pretty good for me also. I've taken that quite a few places and caught fish on it. But that's a few of my favorite colors.
Okay. We talked about the 25 variations of perch these days. Uh I don't know. So you would consider this more of a natural, or is this more of like a Michigan perch?
That's the Michigan, yeah. Yeah. That's pretty natural too, though. It's
Yeah.
just the black head makes it different.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Evan, colors. I mean, I have to ask you this question because I've seen your paint jobs too. But what's your favorite colors? What are your favorite colors? It doesn't have to be legend, but favorite colors in general.
I think locally for the color, for the lakes that we fish and things like that around here, like it's one of those things where bright colors seem to work well because of the murkiness of the water. Whether it's in the spring with the brown water from some of the creeks coming in, or the summer with like some algae blooms or stuff like that. But we've always done well on like the orange tiger, perch baits, fire tiger perch bait, and just some of those brighter colors. And then the red bar perch has always been a good color, especially with those algae blooms and things like that. But it's one of those things where, like Brian said, you can't deny the fact that black and perch seem to be the top two colors on the Musky Inc list, and those are always go-tos for pretty much everything that I pick too. So
I'm lacking. I might have to get another one or two or three. I need a fire tiger. I just feel like that might be the missing piece to my legend puzzle for this year. I don't know.
That'll solve all your bait demands.
Somebody needs to save me from myself, honestly. Either that or my wife's gonna end up killing me at some point. You're not gonna hear from me anymore, like 3 weeks.
All musky fishermen are collectors by nature.
yep.
That's what I was excited. I thought I was gonna get a chance to find some lures. I went and walked Woodcock Monday, and not a single lure left.
Wow.
Thought there'd be something.
That is very surprising. You didn't find anything.
Yeah, one fishing rod. Somebody's old reel.
Nick, I gotta ask you, what's your favorite colors?
I do really like the walleye color as well. And then that natural perch that you pulled up was one that we did really well on this summer. That was our thermocline hunter this summer in a normal 9-inch perch bait.
So there was a day that I was out with Evan and Charlie, and I'm pretty sure it was this bait. Evan, you can tell me if I'm wrong, because there's a chance I could be, but I bought this color because of that day, and it's that blue shad color. I'm just curious because I feel like shad patterns in general are just good in like around our area. The shad lakes. I hear all the time Ohio lakes, shad. But this is just I like blue too for some reason. Just the cold water aspect of it too. I don't know if there's anything to that, but I read an article, and I know my buddy Dan has told me about this. Like, I think it was a Musky Hunter article years back. They talked about the color blue in cold water. And just there's something about blue, and I don't remember what it was or if there's a specific reason. I just remember blue and cold water. But I just love the paint jobs, and I don't know. I think it goes back to one of those things. Like you hear it all the time. Like guys say, color is more for the fisherman, but you're ultimately not going to fish a bait unless you're confident in that color, right? Like that's what I keep hearing and what I'm learning, So I think color is important to have favorites because those are your core baits you're going to run and have confidence in.
Yeah, totally.
Yep, definitely. You gotta have confidence in what you're doing for sure.
Yeah. So
that the blue shad. I had a little story. There was that was a pretty good color evidently for West Branch, Ohio. There was a guy one time that told me this story that there was a giant muskie found out there floating. I don't know what, what the size would have been, but it was very large. And the story had it that it was found with a plow in its mouth, and the plow evidently it had been caught, broke the line, and got away, and then found later dead. But that was the color, was the blue shad. And I've had a few people wanting that color just because of hearing that before.
I find it interesting how well the shad colors work on lakes that don't have shad in them.
Definitely the silver. You get into some of the clearer water, it's definitely the flash that comes off the silver that works well.
So one question I forgot to ask was, with with the perch baits, I mean, any of the baits you're making, the plows too. I mean, what do you have any like situational scenarios where you would go to these baits more often than not? Like, would you say like there's a certain time throughout the year like that you're really running one bait harder than another? If that's fair.
As like the perch bait as opposed to plow, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Or even the outcasts or any of the.
Yeah, there's certain times. I guess I tend to stay a little bit smaller, a little, maybe the first like May, June, and then I do like to, as soon as the water's warmed up, I'm good with going with bigger baits. I've always liked big baits. I don't know. That's just me. I just always felt better having a big bait on the rod. But yeah, that's situational. And then I can't really think of where I would if I want to go real shallow. I guess I'll go with the outcast. The Being that they're deep divers, they are pretty versatile. I've always liked that about the deeper divers, is where you can, if you want to run, you can always run them short and high, or else you can throw them on a board with a few feet of line and get them not too far under the surface. And you've always got the option of going deep with them. So, but that's about the best I can answer that question for you, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's good. Evan, do you feel, are you in the same? Are you running, you're running yours throughout the year, or how are you running yours?
I'd say it's the same kind of deal. I mean, most of the time, whenever I'm running them when it's later in the season when we're marking big schools of bait fish and stuff like that. And I know, I'm generally running them for the depth and getting them down to where, that's the one thing that I'll have to say about it. And I think the reason why they're so popular where they are is that you can duplicate your depth constantly. I mean, from one perch bait to the next, whether it's, you want to get 8 foot down, if you pick up one or you pick up another one, you're going to put it back, 30 foot or 32 foot or something like that. And, you're going to get your depth out of it. And, it's one of those things where I feel like having that ability to, between whichever color you want to run, knowing exactly what depth you want to put it at makes it so effective. And that's when we generally run it, when, you want to run 12 foot down or 15 foot down, or, even in the summer. So, but I had a question for Brian, and I don't know if you wanted to answer it or not, but about the jointed baits. Like, if there's a particular time that you run a jointed bait over a straight bait.
I do like jointed baits. I've seen certain places where they've worked better for me at times, and I've been in like dirtier water. It seems like, I don't know whether just the movement or the clanging around maybe brings them in a little bit better, but yeah, there's different times that jointed bait has worked for me well. That's one instance I can think of. I'm not sure if I can think of any. I can't. I'm not coming up with anything right off the top of my head here right now.
Yeah, I mean that definitely answers it though. I mean that's one situational, thing that I probably wouldn't have thought of. I mean, I don't I don't have the experience you guys have, but the forethought to say, the extra clanging around with the jointed baits and dirty water. I mean, to me that's a good tip because I think a lot of new musky anglers would probably miss that. I don't know if that's fair. Yeah. All right. So, where were we at, Nick? I wanted to go to you. When do you run your legends?
All the time. I usually run the Outcast a lot in the spring, and then like I like them behind boards. Caught my largest largemouth on an Outcast last year, 20-incher. It's impressive. But yeah, Outcast early, and then perch baits once the water warms up, all over the place.
I feel like I needed a tool for the north end of Chautauqua.
That's the tool.
I feel like I solved that particular problem in my mind with the perch baits. I think that's going to be my next conversation with Brian at some point. Is where I gotta get some information on the plow. I want to get a couple big boys and run them in the fall, but I mean, I'll run them in the spring. Who knows? Joel mentioned something to me that guys run bigger baits, in the spring, but I don't know. Just run them. Can't catch
Try
fish,
anything.
run them. All right. So we talked a lot about the baits, the colors. So I guess my next question, unless do you guys have any questions for Brian that's on your mind right now?
Can I ask one about I've seen some different perch baits with like different lips and some with like bent lips and long lips. Could you talk about some of those variations? What drove those?
Yeah, I had the perch bait. I've made the extra deep, which is like sort of like a long A bomber lip, and then I had the extreme, and that lip there, that'll really get on deep, and it's really a handful in the rod. It actually, I think it pulls harder than what the plow does. So I've actually had it one rod I had with the metal furrows on the end. It would actually saw that line off if you run it long enough. The line. I'd run the Tiger Bright, and I actually had it saw off a couple of times on me till I figured out what was going on. I needed to run it on a plastic furrow, but those will get you down a little bit deeper. The extreme's going to get the extra deep will get you down a few more feet. The extremes, it's going to go. It's a pretty steep dive curve on it. Then the joint and the bent lips was just something to get a little bit, trying something with a little bit different action out of it. And I mean, I don't sell a lot of them. It's just whenever somebody might want one at some time, and it's just something that I've had out there that I might have taken to the show, or sold it to somebody, and other people had seen it and asked about it or wanted to get one.
That's what I had seen them from Jojo. I can't pronounce his last name, from up in Buffalo there, from the Niagara Musky Association.
Yeah.
Will
Yeah,
Lee.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
But he showed me a few of the different variations that you've made over the time and
they've got different actions too. I can think of times when I've run even like that extreme. I wasn't catching anything on anything else of my lures, and I put that extreme out, and wham, I caught a couple of muskies on it. So it was just the difference in actions that when the other style wasn't working, that came in came to the rescue.
Yeah, a little different presentation.
Exactly.
Evan, do you have any other questions?
I think one of the things that I wanted to ask Brian, and you'd brought up about walking into that bait shop up there in Georgian Bay or wherever that was in Canada and seeing the bait. If there's, like what the craziest messages that you've got from somebody, because I've seen people looking for some of the other stuff, the Legend Sunnies and things like that. And, where's the weirdest thing that you've heard from somebody from looking for a perch bait or, any Legend stuff?
I've had I used to have a guy that would come to the show and he would grab some of those sunnies and a few of the other ones, and he was taking them saltwater fishing, and he ended up sending me a couple back. They were just all like chewed up like crazy. It was funny, and he sent me pictures of all these wild looking saltwater fish with teeth hanging out everywhere. But yeah, that was some. I can't think of too much else. I've actually had guys using that claw for like a downrigger for
Oh, wow.
running a walleye bait off the back of it. I guess that kind of fits maybe what you were asking.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow, that's an awesome question. That's an even better answer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool to me though. Like, I mean, you can take these saltwater fishing and catch, I would imagine like more than just multi-species. Like there's got to be like tons and tons of species of fish that just would eat these things. And I don't know. I mean, have you ever gotten a picture, like somebody send you a picture of just like, I don't know, like an 11-foot bull shark on one, just like random crazy stuff like that. That would be so amazing to me.
I don't know if I had any bull sharks. But there's some crazy other things that I've had pictures of.
Yeah, that's cool stuff though. So I want to get into some stories a little bit. And I think this is so I definitely want to hear the big fish story you mentioned earlier. But my question is, as far as, I mean, and looking at how much experience you guys have, Brian in particular, like what would you have any like particular maybe favorite memories of just fishing with your baits? Like any particular fish stand out or just anything crazy happen, while fishing a Legend lure?
Let's see. I've had like the XL. That story there I was going to talk about, that I was trolling and I had a small bait out. So the muskie actually had an option of a 9-inch or 23-inch, the XL, and he took the 23-inch, and this was the first time I ever had a strike on. And I just looked at the rod in disbelief when I seen it sound off, and I just said, "Is this really happening?" Because that's what that bait was made for, just to find out if something would hit something that big. And so I got it. I was by myself, which was a problem, and I got the other rod in, and then I got the fish. He stayed down for a while, and then I was able to bring him boat side. And just as I was getting ready to net him, he took and threw his head back and forth, and all that weight of that big plug, it just either ripped that hook out, and he was gone. And it was probably one of the bigger fish. I guess the big ones always get away, but yeah, that was one of the bigger fish I ever had on. And it was the 23-incher that he hit. That was crazy. It told me something that they, that they would hit them. So
Was that in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, it was in Pennsylvania. Yep.
That's awesome.
I've had some other. I've had. let's see, this was a pretty good one. Whenever I first got into musky trolling, and I was fishing after dark, and I was just putting along, I was probably like, I don't know, like 2 mile an hour. And I'm driving along, I start getting close to shore, and the boat kept on wanting to turn into shore. And I'm thinking, I had a tiller back then, and I keep on turning the tiller more and more. Pretty soon I can't turn it anymore, and it's still wanting to nose into the shore. I'm going to run into shore. And I'm thinking, what in the world's going on? I looked over, and my rod's just bent over. It was like the old pool cue rods, and it was bent over, and evidently the drag was just a little bit too tight, and it was pulling that boat over. It was crazy. It was like for a while I thought I was in a twilight zone. I was thinking, why is this boat not going straight? But that's what it was. It was a pretty nice fish though. But that's always been I never forgot about that. That was always a good story, I guess.
That's a good one. I'm probably not allowed to drive the boat at night. Anybody's boat. Oh, I mean, so what about you guys? Evan, Nick, do you guys have any stories you want to share with Legend?
I guess my best one would have to be that fish on the plow this year. On a down rod, just had it like 20 foot back and went off, and I was convinced it was going to be, the monster. And it was a 36-inch musky. Just, the bait was almost half as long as it with the lip and everything. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's the thing. Every time the rod goes off, I just feel like I never know. And I know that you get to a point probably where you can tell when the reel goes off. Like the couple big ones that I've been a part of, you could hear the difference in the clicker and the reel, but I don't know. When I hear it, I go, I just lose it every single time, regardless. Just think it's the one. But Evan, do you have any stories?
I don't think I have any stories per se, but I think one of the things I wanted to talk about was Brian and some of those Moraine Muskie Association meetings. And I think one of those early meetings you had presented at, and you showed some old videos that you had. Did you film back then with a camcorder? Is that how you guys did it?
Yeah, we did. And it's funny you bring that up. My one buddy had the camera, and they were just if you remember, I guess I don't know, but anyways, they were just starting to come out and get a little popular then. They were the big ones that you would set on your shoulder and film, and I ended up getting one then like a year later, because they were really nice for getting some fish on tape. And something that ties in with that is we took that down to the I don't know if you guys remember if you're familiar with the Monroeville show, the Monroeville Expo. Musky or it wasn't a Musky Expo, it was just a fishing show in general. But we took that down there, and we had a bunch of footage, and we took it to the booth when we were selling the lures, and it was you want to talk about the word showstopper. This was probably about the closest thing you would come to a showstopper, because we was running out, and I know the one segment to where the guys catching that, it was about a 40-pound muskie, and these people had never seen it. I don't think anybody had videos at any of these shows. This was just entirely something new, and the people that were walking by just stopped. I mean, stopped in their tracks, and and it basically, when it's that busy, that many people in there running around, it locked up the show. It was just crazy. But nobody had seen it before. And I know we went out to the Chicago show the same year, and it was about the same deal there. You just had guys that would just stand watching it. And I'm sure I seen a few bigger names out there standing watching, and you could just see the wheels turning in their head. Nobody was doing it till basically after we took some of them to the shows.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. That's another great question from Evan too. I mean, I had no idea. Like, just to put that into perspective, like I take my GoPro out and strap it to my chest, and it just sits right there, And to think about, a camcorder on your shoulder and doing it, and I feel like I struggle with a little camera here, at times. I think that's really interesting. You guys were doing that at the shows and taking that video. I would have probably stopped there and just watched. I would have been in that line clogging up the.
See, Brian, you left the hardest part out too. They were catching giant muskies. These were, it's like Brian said. I mean, there's like 40-pounders. It wasn't like you're watching a video and you're seeing somebody hold up a 35-inch PA fish. It was like it was nighttime. First off, a lot of these fish were, after dark, and like once a camera was on them and you saw that fish, it was just like, holy crap. They were giant.
Yeah, I can't even fathom a 40-pound fish. My staple's like 30 to 34 inches. That's what I'm capable of right now. I got to ask too, going back to the story you told, about that fish on that bigger bait, like I'm assuming you, Brian, you remember the first fish you caught on one of your lures, right? Like that. Can you walk me through, like, what did that feel like, for you building a bait and then ultimately catching that first fish?
That's yeah, it really is a good rewarding feeling whenever, getting that fish, catching a fish on it. It's just you did something and you fooled the fish into eating it. It was a forgery that he took. And probably the next best thing to that is when someone else would buy one of your lures and catch a fish on it. That was probably just as rewarding, I guess, I would think. But definitely two ultimate highs in, whenever, as a lure maker, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's really cool. That's just cool to think about. These baits aren't easy to make, especially with what you're doing, on these. And I couldn't fathom what it really takes to build a bait like this and produce it and see it being used all over the country, and just seeing pictures of fish and just mangled, scratched up perch baits. I mean, it's just so cool to me that this is, I mean, a lot of guys that haven't gotten into musky fishing or just getting started. I mean, these are all the things that, for me, the more I learn, I think I have a higher appreciation for stuff like that. Seeing a bait that's just completely chewed on, it just, I don't know, it's different now. After a couple of years, it's just different seeing that stuff. Like, you get so much more, I think, respect for just everything, the time and effort that goes into this stuff, and ultimately seeing that, that piece, that show-stopping piece, and hanging in somebody's office. I don't know, it's just cool stuff.
It's definitely so cool to look at the lunge log and see, search the perch baits and see what, I mean, the giant fish that they've caught all over the place, and it's awesome.
Yeah, there was a lot of trial and error, and I'm sure, Evans went through that too. There's a lot of trial and error in making, to get to the point where as far as even paint or the urethane I'm sure he can attest to that also. There's just so many variables, lots of times that but over time, I guess, you overcome it. There's still some things that plague you every once in a while, but yeah, it's definitely, you got to stay on your toes with some of this stuff because if you're not watching over carefully, you can put quite a few lures out and have, be, you have to fix every one of them,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Brian, you mentioned that before about, being a diehard and going all in on it. And, whenever you guys had those tough times and sticking with it, it's like being the captain of the ship, you're going to go down on that ship if you have to. It's one of those things where, even whenever I started, so I'm sure when you started, there wasn't a whole lot of information out there. Like you weren't going online and doing a Google search on how to build a crankbait, and you kind of, you came up with anything. And, and I think that's where, the trial and error part came into it. And Ryan and I had this talk before, but until you figure out what works for you, you can go out there and read 100 different ways to do something. And until you're comfortable doing it, whichever way you do it, then that's the only way that you're going to be able to do it, and be confident in that you're doing it for sure the right way. So I think a lot of it is just trying to learn that procedure and how your process works the best. And once you figure that out, then you just move forward with it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the day of the information now that you can get through the internet and that. Back then, it's like you just basically had to start making phone calls, and on top of phone calls, you get a lead off of one guy to tell you where you might be able to find this. And yeah, it was definitely a different world today. I mean, everything you basically want to know or look for is right at your fingertip. It's sort of like where the fishings went as well. It's like you could back then. I think I was using a flasher when I started musky fishing, and then I think the only other option was a graph. I don't think they had line counters yet. But boy, what an advancement whenever they come out with the navionics where you could actually see yourself moving on a map. That was just, other before that, I can just remember I was in, maybe just for instance, up to Georgian Bay, you're driving with one hand, looking at the map, holding a map and they're trying to figure out which island's which. And it was just, what a big difference. I mean,
Good luck.
yeah. Yeah. It's like with the navionics and that, you're just like a pro, like you've been fishing all your life.
Georgian Bay, where every island looks exactly the same, and you're looking at that map trying to figure out which one you're behind. Yeah, it's tough.
I think I'll just say that I take this for granted all the time. I do technology for a living, and I've always been around technology. I mean, I don't even know. It's just, I think it's something I take for granted because, I was alive pre-internet, but dial up was probably, I mean, my point is like the internet's always been around for me, it seems like. And when you go back and you think about how technology's changed fishing to this point, like it's crazy. Like I can't even think about what, just jumping in a boat and going, and not, not having some of these tools available. It just, I don't know. I mean, that might even make, the bigger fish you guys caught, even more impressive, at times. I don't know if it does or not, but to me, it seems like it does, being able to navigate and catch these fish, like with, you even said like without line counters at times, it's just insane to me. It's how far we've come. What we talked a little bit about, the fish, like some of these memories and stories you had, Brian. What would you consider your best day on the water, with a legend lure? Is that, do you have like any story or any, specific day that would stand out?
Yeah, I would have to say I was with my father fishing. We were fishing. We were fishing on it was Kenzu, and we had our day. We caught two fish, two big ones, and close to in a little over 40 pounds. And he caught one, I caught one, and then we got a one at a little over 30 pounds to boot. So it was like that was one of the best days I ever had, and I experienced it with my father. So that's got to be one of my best times I was ever out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's
a good.
awesome,
Yeah, that is.
especially on Kinzu. Can be a defeating lake.
It was a little bit better back in those days for a while till it fell flat on its face. But definitely, yeah, it was definitely a different place back then. That's for sure.
Did there seem to be less pike back then, or just
Uh, no, we was catching pike back then as well. Yep.
All right. That's a good, man. I always think about these stories with family. It seems like those are like the special moments you have on the water. I mean, there's so many memories you can make fishing, but those are the ones that seems like we all remember and hold on to. You have a good day like that with your dad, and some of my best memories fishing were with my dad. Days that we never even caught any fish, maybe just found like a good log to sit on. Like it's, I mean, it's good. My next question, I really wanted to ask you this initially, and I kind of just forgot, but legend lures, I hear legend, I immediately think of you in these baits, but just out of curiosity, is there any like story behind the name? How did you come up with legend lures? Were you thinking anything in particular?
Oh, it's no. I guess it's like whenever you start trying to figure out what kind of name you want to name a company or anything. It's like you're sitting there and you're just running all kinds of. I can still remember, tossing it back and forth, saying, "How about this name or that name?" And it's like I don't know. Just for some reason, I guess we decided just to go with Legend Lures. Uh, yeah, it's like I said, you start going. Actually, it's got to the point where you open up a dictionary and start going down through and looking at all different kinds of, well, maybe this would work, maybe this, a carnivore or something, all kinds of different names, and yeah, we just settled on that. I don't know if it was a good name or not. I thought maybe whenever my partner was in it with me for a couple of years, he dropped out probably in around like 92 or 93. And I thought of maybe just changing the name to Boyer Bates or something like that, but I just never did. I figured it was already started in there, and that's basically where it came from.
they've definitely lived up to the name.
Thanks. That's good to hear. There's a high line there. I know whenever we so one of the local newspapers wrote a story at one time, and it said the fort or the lure was duped into the name Legend or whatever. I didn't like. I guess duped means fooled. I don't know if I exactly thought that was a good statement to hear or not, but it's like you said, yeah, it's a name you got to live up to.
I mean, I'd say based off of what I know, it's you've definitely lived up to it and probably surpassed that by leaps and bounds. I mean, like I said, I mean, I've done a lot of research, reading and stuff, trying to get into the sport of musky fishing. And, Nick brought it up with the lunge log. Evan's talked about, the history of things, and in general, I mean, I just, it's crazy to me, like how widespread, legend lores are, and I mean, even, I always think, I don't know why I think this, but I always felt like you have like the Canadian Shield Lakes, and then you've got like the Midwest lakes, and you've got like these different regions. And I just felt like initially they were all different, clear water, reservoirs, natural lakes, all that stuff. But it just seems like guys are running these baits everywhere. And Canada, the US, like, I don't know, man. It's, to me, based off of what I know, I would say 100% lived up to the legend lure's name. But I mean, I was just curious, and it's funny about what you said about the dictionary, because I feel like you could sit there and spend so much time trying to figure that out.
Especially now, it seems like every day you see a different bait company pop up, all sorts of names, but no replacement for the legend.
No.
I would say, back when I got started in, it was, I would have to think that it was a lot easier back then getting started in. For one thing, these days there's just about every shape of a lure possible is being made. I think it'd be really, really tough to get your foot in the door right now. And my hat's off to Evan. He's come a long ways just in the time he's been messing with lures. But I would hate to have to, try and get a hold in this market nowadays, just trying to get started into it. I think it would be a lot tougher now than whenever I started getting into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty valid point, though. And like, Evan, you're doing stuff, with the meatball line, and even the flat baits and stuff. I mean, I don't know that I've seen anything that, from a musky lure standpoint, that looks like a meatball. I've seen some of the, like, I mean, it's, go ahead. I can't.
That was just one of those things. I was sitting in a boat with a guy one time, and I made a lure, and it was smaller than the meatball, and he's like, "Why don't you make something like this but fatter?" And I did, and and I caught some fish on it. And another time, year later, sitting in the boat, and a local guy that we probably all fished with too, looked at the thing and said, "Man, that looks like a meatball." And I was like, "Oh, geez, it does look like meat." And it's just how things get born, And it's like Brian said, there's just so many things out there that are similar. And I think guys, start making baits and want to do something like other people just to get that comfort factor and, know that confidence, okay, I can make something and it works. But, the guys that really do, in my opinion, the guys that make something unique and have something that, stands out from the rest of that. And in these days and age, with everybody, making similar styles, that, right now it's just the paint that stands out mostly. So having something that's different and unique is one of those things that I feel is an advantage for people. And you got to start somewhere. So we've all tried it from the beginning, and trial and error gets you to that point, I feel. So there's no better way, in my opinion.
Yeah, I am curious though, Brian. Are you still making that 23-inch, and is there any plans for an even bigger lure?
No, I don't. I'm not going any larger. I do make some. I usually end up making a couple a year. I know I have I think one on order here. It's like whenever I can get to it, those ones there I hold off till I can make a little bit of a run at them. But that's about as. I don't think I'd want to go any bigger than that. That's pretty big. I mean, I played around with it more whenever I was in my earlier years. I don't mess with it anywhere near as much these days. But it was something a question that I had in my mind that it needed answered. So that's why I did that.
I was just curious.
Sounds like Ryan wants one.
Oh, I want one. I don't want it. I don't know that I would I got this thing, and this is all I'm actually blaming Evan for this, because since the last time I've talked to him about, history and nostalgia and all this stuff, I've just been staring at lures that I just want to hang. And like so much so that I'm actually like thinking about just getting rid of all the sports memorabilia I have and just making room for like vintage musky lures. It's I'm telling you guys, I have a real problem over here. I don't know how to fix it.
I don't like to hang them until after they've caught something.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I get that. I get that, but I don't know. There's just like this struggle in my mind. It's just like this conversational game room piece, like I don't have any mounts. I have like a really shoddy, like I have $2 to my name that are just like shoddy racks. And I don't have any like awesome conversational pieces for my office. So yeah, I don't know, just
I just have to get you one a big fish.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's right. I haven't, I don't know that I've caught one that's been mount worthy, but honestly, like if it was up to me, I would probably just mount the 36 inchers. Not mount physically, but get one made, a replica, just because I love them all, man. I'll catch a 35 and be completely content with it. But maybe someday I'd get to hold one over, 30, 35 pounds. That would be nice too. We'll see. Put that on the list for this year. All right. So how are we doing on time? Are you guys okay on time? Only got a couple questions left.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. I won't hold you guys up much longer, hopefully, but one of the questions I had was about Muskies Inc. I've tried to talk Muskies Inc. in as many videos as I can, because, here's another example, like without Muskies Inc. chapter 16, Three Rivers, I don't know that I would be on this call with any of you guys really. Like, Evan, we met at a meeting, Nick, we met through friends, Muskies Inc. Brian, I've seen you at meetings. And actually one of the things I want to bring up too, we were talking about this before we started, when I was messing around with lures and I ended up cutting my finger, the first person that reached out to me asking me how my finger was Brian. You sent me a message on Facebook and said, "Hey, how's your hand doing?" And I was like, oh, at that point, because I don't know, it just sometimes like when you're new to this stuff, like, I think like, again, legend lures, it's like this thing I hear, I'm like all over the country, but you kind of lose sight, Brian, you're a local guy, you're a fisherman, you're in our club. And I don't know, it's just, that was really cool to have you reach out and check on my hand, number one. But without Muskies Inc., like I wouldn't have met you guys, and I wouldn't have had those types of experiences. So my question is, has Muskies Inc. impacted you in any way, as far as fishing or bait making? And I know you do a lot for the club as far as raffles and stuff too, with bait. So, I mean, I guess the first part of that is how has that impacted you, if at all?
It's definitely, it's definitely helped over the years. There's guys that catch fish on your lures and they're listed. It's definitely a plus. I don't know if you're aware of it. I'm I'm one of the founding members of chapter 16, Three Rivers. I believe there was four or five of us at the time. I think there's three of them gone. There's two of us left yet. John Trexel, I don't know if anybody knows him, but Johnny Spinda, he's gone. There was Ed Kabansik, he's gone, and Chris Totter, one of the guy that helped me get into musky fishing. He passed away a couple years ago. So, but yeah, we kind of got that club started, and actually just by doing a couple of shows, we just started asking guys if they, there wasn't any club in the area back then. They're the only one that was here was the Penn, Ohio, I think up by Pymatum, Greenville was the only place you'd have to run the whole way up there to go to a meeting. So, we started asking guys, and I served as the guy that got me into musky fishing. He served as the president the first year, and I was the VP, and it went from there. I mean, it's had its ups and downs over the years, but I guess it's still rolling, and yeah, it seems to do a lot of good. Definitely for Pennsylvania, I know there's excuse me, a lot of the money that gets raised goes for the for stocking or for using to raise the muskies for the minnow fund or whatever. So yeah, that's about I guess I'm done talking with that now.
I mean, that's good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you. You started a great club.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I mean,
It's definitely been a great, resource to meet other fishermen and, network and learn tons from, and just from talking with Evan and like Charlie and Ryan. And it's a great organization and really helps improve everybody.
Yeah, it's over the years. I've been in it since then, and I've met a lot of people. It's and definitely, you hear guys, talking. You get information. I mean, it's musky fishing. You're not going to get all the information, but you get your little tidbits here and there that add up over time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that covered it well. You guys touched on that. Yeah, I mean, it just I keep bringing it up, just because I have a chance to in some of these videos, and it's just I said I wouldn't have learned as much as I did over the last 2 years if it wasn't for guys like Evan, reaching out and talking and fishing with Nick and talking. And these are guys, some of these guys I talk to just about every week now. It seems like there's conversational threads and we're just constantly talking fishing, and I don't know, it's good stuff. If you can, and I think it's also one of those things that you get out of it what you put into it too. You can still be a member and not attend meetings. You get the magazine and the calendar and all that stuff, but like if you go to meetings and you actually spend the time to invest in it, you're going to get it just as much out, as you put in. So I think that's good stuff. Thank you for bringing that up, Ryan. And I'll be honest, I didn't know you were one of the founding the founding men, so to speak, of chapter 16. I wish I could maybe learn more about the history of the clubs and how things got started. I mean, that's a really cool aspect to this. Bring some life to how things got started back then. So my next question for you guys, and we might go around real quick if we have time. I've been asking, what is our top tips for new musky anglers? I've got guys that are watching some of my videos that are trying to get into the sport, maybe trying to learn how to do things right. I'm trying to help with these videos, give them at least one tip, to try to cut the learning curve. So we'll start with Brian on this one. Do you have any advice for the new musky angler or guys that maybe have been, started fishing that are just relatively green?
I guess the best advice I could give them is to try to buddy up with someone that knows that's been fishing for quite a few years, to be able to go out with them and get a little bit of a little bit of knowledge, starting where to go with it. I mean, that's how I got started, and that's probably the best way. I mean, I think anything you do, if you want to learn how to do it, you got to hang with people that are doing it, that know how to do it, and that's probably one of the best things. And I guess always keep a positive attitude. You know, you're out there, and I don't think there's any wrong way to musky fish. You know, there's definitely ways you'll catch more fish, but I mean, uh, like I said, I don't think there's any wrong way. I mean, you could be the guy that catches the next world record. It might be the only fish you ever catch in your life, but was that the wrong way to fish or whatever? But yeah, just a positive attitude, and definitely surround yourself with people that have been in the sport and know what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's sound advice for sure. You know, find a mentor. Uh, I love the fact that you said there's no wrong way, because you made me feel a lot better about myself. You know, about going out there doing this thing. I want to jump over to Nick. Nick, do you have any advice? I know I've asked you this question. I've asked Evan this question multiple times now too, but give me something new, Nick.
I'd say to keep notes when you do go fishing, when you do have success, maybe even when you have failures. You know, that was huge this year, getting dialed in as far as, you know, figuring out where when we were running those perch baits really deep, you know, running over humps and figuring out where they're diving with line counter numbers and getting dialed in so we could be in the right zone. And any little note, you know, I like to keep a little log. It's probably got way too much information, but anytime we catch one, I record, you know, moon phase and all that. I doubt it counts or anything, but you know, as much information as I can from each fish, and then that's, you know, over time it adds up and gives me a little go by for when to do what and what works when and where, and a little confidence boost.
I think that I started doing that last year more, and tracking trips. You know, even if I failed miserably and didn't catch or move a fish, which happened to me a lot, it just, I think it does help having that log. And I don't know that there is, you know, I don't know that there's such thing as having too much information. I mean, I've been writing down, especially if I catch a fish, I'm usually writing down like all the moon, the water temps, all that stuff, you know, what color socks and underwear I had on that day, and just about any other marker I can put on there to try to replicate the thing. That's all going to help. But yeah, I mean, that's a good tip. I like that one too. Evan, I've asked you this. This will probably be the third time, maybe, I don't know, third time, I think.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. I just say don't be afraid to try something new. You know, it's whether it's a new lure style, trying a new lake, something like that. If you're just starting out, you know, I think I touched on it the last time about, you know, try to find a higher density water or something like that to start in if you're new. But, you know, don't be afraid to try something that's out of the box if you know, something that you've never tried before. And, you know, I think we've all probably have done that and have found that, geez, man, you can have success doing something that you're not used to doing. And I think that really opens up a lot of other windows for you with musky fishing too. So, you know, try some other things. There's a lot of good feedback out there from everybody on different lure. You know, you can ask, you know, a question about a lure online and probably find out 25 different people that'll tell you, you know, 10 different things. But, you know, it's one of the things, trying it for yourself and figuring it out on your own is really pays off in the end.
Yeah, that is also a good one, because I think sometimes I don't know if the right term is pigeonholed. I feel like sometimes you kind of get stuck in a routine almost, like as a fisherman. And, you know, it could be, for me, I know it happens to me all the time, where I'll just go out and run the same, you know, we're not trying anything, you know, new at times. And I don't know. I think you do that for a day, you might be surprised. You might get on a new pattern, or you might learn something new that's going to help you be a better fisherman. I mean, that's all good stuff. Good.
Brian touched with the extreme. You know, it's like you're running your regular 9-inch perch bait and not having success, but then you figure out, all right, I'll try something different. Maybe they haven't seen it this way, or, you know, it's something, a different approach, and you get success. So.
No, I just getting back to what he was talking about, logging. I have I definitely have logged over the years, and I can attest to this, that there's been many times that I've went back to, back to my notes and logs, and it definitely helps. And there's, certain waters that you fish, you can see correlations of the, moon phases and all that. It's definitely a great point to log everything in: water temperature, moon phase, wind, uh, water temp, all that stuff.
All right. Well, the last question I have, but if say somebody wanted to reach out and get a bait off of you, what are the best ways to reach out, or maybe just to even see some of the stuff? And again, this is more for guys that are just getting into the sport, and relatively new, to musky fishing. Otherwise, everybody knows legend lures. But where can guys find your baits at?
I do have a Legend Lures Facebook page, and a lot of the colors, and I think some of the sizes are on there that you can look there and see. There's stores. Let me think. There's Team Rhino Outdoors has some. I don't know how many lures these guys are sitting on at this time of the year. I know I have to make some up for some of these stores. Raleigh and Helens, I'm not sure what they're sitting on. Mark Slide Bait and Tackle. There's a couple places up in Canada that I sell to. The JB Fishing Depot. Trying to think of the Joe Flo's Musky Tackle, but yeah, there's and like I tell guys too, is if you can't find what you're looking for, it might take me a while to do it, but I can help you out if that's the last avenue for getting something that you want, that I make. So.
All right, that's cool. And I will say that I've made a couple trips up to Mark's Bait and Tackle in the last month and a half, and there's a particular, I believe, Canadian Crush color sitting up there in a perch bait. It's that orange. I think it's Canadian Crush. Yeah, Daddy likes that one. I don't know why I love that color so much. Canadian Crush. I would probably buy that in every bait I have. I just love that color. But yeah, that's cool stuff. I do get it. I do like going somewhere and be able to look and hold, stuff before I buy it. But that's all right. That's cool. I mean, multiple avenues. I did get one from Team Rhino too. So multiple avenues to find legend lures. All right. Do we have anything else, guys? We've talked, we've got a good solid, I don't even know, hour and a half plus. I appreciate you guys doing this tonight. Evan, thank you again for jumping on. Nick, thanks for jumping on. Brian, thanks for taking the time to come on and talk fishing with us and talk legend. I mean, this was awesome. I love stuff like this. You guys did an awesome job. I can't thank you enough.
It was great talking with you, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, there it was. An hour and a half discussion with Mr. Brian Boyer and Legend Lures. I just thought that Evan brought so much to the table with some of the questions. We talked musky nostalgia. Nick, his angle from a local fisherman, and really just hearing some of the stories that Brian brought and talking about these baits. This was, again, super special. Guys like Brian Boyer, I look up to, in the musky community, because they've been doing this for a very long time. They've got a wealth of information. And again, Brian was not afraid to share that information with you guys, during the course of the discussion. I have so much respect for local guys, local fishermen here in PA. I just got so much respect for Brian and the way he's handled his business. And, again, a founding father of Chapter 16 here for Muskies Inc. He's done a lot for the fishery. He's done a lot for the musky community. And really, his lures are, in fact, legendary, as we talked about, living up to that name of Legend Lures. This was just so awesome. I'm super thankful. Really just want to take the time to thank Brian, for coming on and talking fishing with a bum like me. Thank Evan and Nick again for taking time out of their week to come on and talk musky fishing with Brian and talk legend lures. I can't say enough about you guys. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to do this and really help me just provide information and kind of an interesting listen to those of you that are interested in watching these. So guys, again, thank you for coming on and talking these beautiful legend lures. You guys need, if you don't have these in your spread, you've got to go out to Team Rhino, Mark's Bait and Tackle, Musky Shop, ping Brian. And it was just so cool for me to be able to have this discussion with somebody that's just super humble, super kind, and really just genuine. And one of the founding fathers, again, of our club here, and just somebody that's just done so much for the musky community across the entire country and really just North America. So again, thank you guys, all of you, for your support. All of you that have been watching these, sending me messages, giving me positive and negative feedback. I really appreciate you guys. Hopefully we're going to be out there fishing soon, so some of these video casts are going to kind of slow down. I've just had limited time during the week, and I really need to focus and get back to my core YouTube style, which is, me conveying what I've learned to you guys throughout my fishing week or month or year. So we're going to get there. I just got to keep grinding and keep putting out content. It's a lot of late nights. It's a lot of work, but it's been a lot of fun. So thank you guys very much for everything you do, and all of your support watching the channel. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you guys like this content overall, subscribe to my channel. Leave me a comment. Let me know what I'm doing great. Let me know what I'm doing poorly. Just let me know how your fishing's going. I look forward to hearing from you guys as well. So we're going to be on the water soon. I'm super excited. Potentially go out fishing tomorrow for my first musky boat trip of 2021. We'll see how that goes. We got the lure swap tonight. I'm super pumped about that. Trying to pick up a few more baits, maybe do some trading, talk to guys, learn more about the sport of musky fishing. And again, that's what Muskies Inc. will do for you guys. If you guys make the effort to come out to the meetings, join the clubs, meet guys, and really work on becoming a better musky fisherman overall. All right, guys, all that's left to say is tight lines. We will see yins next time.